This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Today's edition of the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast is brought to you by The Athletic. Premium coverage for passionate Detroit sports fans. Listeners of this podcast can save 30% off the first year of an annual subscription by visiting theathletic.com/DSP. Don't miss out on great in-depth features. They got writers that are covering all the sports around Detroit. Don't miss out. You can subscribe and save money off of the subscription. You won't regret it. Check out theathletic.com/DSP to subscribe and save 30% off.
Oh my God!
Welcome to episode 34 of the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast. We've got a monster show for you. Not only do we have Money in the Bank predictions for you, but we're going to discuss what's going on with CM Punk and a little bit of a beef with Corey Graves. We got plans for Brock Lesnar. Also, what's going on with Jeff Hardy and pleading guilty. We'll tell you all about it. On top of that, we've got some fallout from the Dominion show. I must say I was right, and you'll find out what that means. We have a special guest coming to today's episode as well. Big Drew joins the show. If you live in the Grand Rapids area or if you live in the Detroit area, you know who Big Drew is. You can hear him on ESPN 960 out in Grand Rapids or 1130 WDFN here in Detroit, as well as 101.3 The Brew out in Grand Rapids. And of course, we're going to talk about Smackdown and Raw. And doing all this with me, he is the guy who keeps me straight and regular. He's the guy who, when I get out a little bit out of line, it's a stiff forearm shot to the head, busting me open hard ways. He is the Doc, John Macaroon.
Some would say I am the advocate for the reigning, defending podcast champion in Detroit, JOCK. I am the advocate for Jock, John Macaroon. Taking the stage, baby. What up?
I love the promo. I love it. Way to kick the show off.
It's probably better than anything you saw on Raw, that's for sure.
All right, well, let's just jump right into it because we've got a jam-packed show.
I'm going to tell you something. When I saw all the wrestlers standing up there, I said,
Oh, the ladders? Oh, my God.
Didn't they do that already?
Yes.
I'm like,
Dude, it's Control-C, Control-V. It's
wow.
copy-paste,
Wow.
copy-paste.
It's unacceptable.
But let me ask you this. So what we're talking about is the opening of Monday Night Raw. When we open with all of the wrestlers who are competing from the Raw brand in the Money in the Bank title matches, men and women. They're all standing on ladders of different sizes. They all have microphones, and they're all just arguing like petulant children with each other. How realistic is that? That's not realistic at all, right? Like, if I hate you, and we have to go into a ring with a ladder, and I know that you've been trying to kill me for the last week leading up to this match, and I'm going to go get on this ladder next to you, I'm either A, jumping off that ladder and I'm pulling you off of yours, or I'm hitting you with the ladder. There is no way we're going to stand around and we're going to argue on microphones. It's not happening. It is the most unrealistic production you've ever seen in your entire life.
And then, do we have a match that comes out of it? Oh, we do. Oh, what a surprise. Promo match. What do you know?
That's right. And was what, like a 12, 15-minute promo, and then we get a Fatal 4-Way. Now, I'll be honest with you. I enjoyed the Fatal 4-Way. At least half of it. I thought the first half of the Fatal 4-Way between the women was very good. Consisted of Alexa Bliss, Ember Moon, Sasha Banks, and Natalya. I thought it was very good. I thought at the end of it, towards the end, it did get a little bit sloppy. There were a few moves that were botched, and if you paid attention, you watched it, you kind of knew them, you seen them. But overall, I thought it told a decent story. It continued the story arc along. Alexa Bliss ended up tapping out to Natalya. I thought it worked.
It worked. It was very enjoyable. Prior to the match, what did you think? Were you surprised by Baron Corbin shaving his head?
Oh, he looks so much better, doesn't he?
The Constable of Raw looks like the part. I like it.
Dude, he looks so much better with a shaved head. I'm glad he embraced his baldness and just said, cool, dude, let's roll.
Yeah, and as I was watching Raw, part of my mindset was just going to the role of Kurt Angle, kind of going now that's kind of leveled off. It's not as good as it was when he first came out. I feel like he could do more, get involved a little bit more mic time, get involved in a more meaningful situation instead of just going out there announcing matches. He's not as good as when he first came to be the general manager.
Well, you have to remember, too, his newness has worn off.
Yes.
And he has struggled. Now what? He has struggled mightily on the mic.
Yes.
So there are times where he forgets his lines in his promos, and you could see him thinking, and it just becomes a little bit of an issue. Do you see them maybe phasing him out and maybe bringing somebody else new in, or letting Baron Corbin kind of run with it for a little bit and then transferring him out and bringing somebody else in? I mean, how do you see this working with
I feel
Kurt
like
Angle?
The best way to use Kurt Angle is to have him be an advocate or a manager of somebody that's up and coming out and say, you know what, wouldn't it be great, Baron Corbin having a manager with the likes of a Hall of Famer like Kurt Angle? I think that'd be great.
Ooh, that would be good.
Wouldn't it be good? Have him attach himself to somebody, can be a mouthpiece for somebody to get him over. And so the likely candidate would be Baron Corbin or somebody else. But I feel like the general manager role is just not enough. I feel like, you know what, you can be that heel manager that can mix it up a little bit, throw a couple punches, suplexes here and there, and then every once in a while take a bump, but not on the mic as much. Not advocating as much, but just being there, training somebody, getting the next person there. And maybe even a woman wrestler, maybe even the likes of an Natalia, somebody that he can be representing and help them get to the championship. And that'd be great to see, right?
Yeah. Now, when we were putting the show together, you had mentioned to me that you had loved the Dolph Ziggler, Drew McIntyre bit with Breezango.
I loved it, and here's why. What do we complain about? The script, how the script is delivered, everything, even the start of Raw with the ladder, everyone kind of, you could see they were kind of thinking their way through. You can go, okay, what are they going to say next? It's not natural. This promo with Dolph and Drew after they defeated Breezango was excellent in that you just had a perfect combination of wrestlers at the right time. Drew McIntyre and Dolph Ziggler are comfortable. They know the role. They took whatever was given to them and they made it awesome. Whatever, it didn't sound scripted. That's number one thing, is they stood out there and they said, look, Drew McIntyre was forceful and said, look, these clowns are the reason why, I can't accept the fact that these guys are losers. They're not trying. This is what I'm talking about. This team right here is the epitome of what's going on here on Raw. And then you got Dolph Ziggler saying, look, we're it. We're the start. We're the end of the show. And it just fit. And that's what I loved, because I was like believing it. I liked it. It felt like here's a kickoff, like we are here to stake our claim for the tag team titles. We are the it tag team. We're it. And Dolph Ziggler looks ripped.
Yep.
Drew McIntyre is a behemoth.
Oh my God, he's massive.
And I just said to myself, wow, what a great promo. The way they walked out, the way they walked over Breezango after they destroyed him. I said, this is the best. It's not going to get better than this on Raw. That's it for me. I'm looking forward to every week to seeing when Dolph and Drew hit that screen, what they're going to do. They need a push. They need to kind of move along, both of them, into that upper echelon. Those are the guys that need to benefit from Raw. Dolph Ziggler, Drew McIntyre need to start moving up in the upper echelon main event storylines, main event angles. They're it. They're ready. So give it to them. If the scripts are bad, I feel like these two can at least take it and be believable as badass mofos on Raw.
Do you think that going into this match, 'cause I think coming out of it, they regained the wind in their sail, but do you think going into this match, you felt kind of like they lost a little bit of that flow that they had going on for the previous 2 weeks due to that loss from the multi-man tag match for the number one contender?
You can emphasize them, give them promos, let them do some work, get them, and most importantly, let them get victories and probably let them take the title.
And I like I said, I think the best thing that came out of this is they gained that steam back. Because I do feel like the brakes were kind of pumped a little bit on them, and then going in and coming out of this match, totally different. Did we finally get a redeeming segment between Sami Zayn and Bobby Lashley?
I thought it was worse than the one before. I didn't like it. No, I just feel like, you know what? You can highlight Bobby Lashley as a monster.
So bad. Both these guys have checked out of this.
I feel like, and the joke has been online, and people who support us on our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, they say, I feel like they're giving Sami Zayn garbage just to see what he does with it.
Yeah.
I feel like he's being punished, or they're like, look, here's crap. Let's see if you can take it and make it work. And it hasn't. This is the worst feud maybe now in the last 5 years in terms of interest, in terms of horrible bits, like multiple, 2, 3, 4 awful
It's like
bits.
every week, how much
bad.
worse can we make the bit from last week?
It's bad. It's
can
horrible.
we top it?
It makes the show terrible to have it on it, and you go, oh, I don't like it. I don't want to see it. But in the end, the redeeming quality of Monday Night Raw was the main event. I loved it. I felt like Finn Balor did the job, and it was awesome.
Yeah, I was going to say, Raw for me, the way it was constructed, you had a really good Fatal 4-Way match with the women. You had a really good Fatal 4-Way match with the men. And then in the middle, you had your Dolph Ziggler, Drew McIntyre promo. And all of that was surrounded by crap.
Yeah.
I really felt like it was an underwhelming Raw overall.
Ronda Rousey's bit didn't help. It didn't do much. It was bad, right?
She's so bad on the mic.
Yeah.
Like, they're pushing her too fast.
Yep.
This was something that could have came along and you could have had her fight her way to the top. And,
Yeah, it's not right. It's not working right.
It's
Right.
just, it was done poorly, and it's all because Vince wants money and he wants views.
Highlight the main event. What made the main event of Raw pretty decent?
For me, it was Finn Balor was incredible. He was awesome, all right? But for me, it was Braun Strowman destroying everybody, and then Kevin Owens setting up a ladder and taking him out through the announcer desk, and then next thing you know, you see him almost like The Undertaker, right? Sit straight up, and Kevin Owens from the ring sees this and has that look of terror on his face, and then Braun comes in and just kills people. Just the way it was put together, the story it had told was awesome, and this goes back to wrestling. You have to tell a story. Keep me interested. This told a story. I'm interested in what's going to happen now in the Money in the Bank.
Average build up to Money in the Bank for Raw. It could have did a lot more. I know that the ladder match is taxing. I know that it's a tough match. I didn't think that the way the opening segment was trying to build it didn't make me more. I mean, I think you could have just highlighted the individuals that were in the match. That's all you had to do with the vignette. You didn't need to. You could have just had them all starting in the ring. You didn't have to have them all propped up on the ladders. But you could have got through Raw through the DVR. It was not as bad as most people would have thought. But now you go to SmackDown, and the condensed version of it made it so that each thing was important. It was interesting in terms of how it highlighted things, and it had a segment that brought us all back to the 80s in terms of how they did it. It was really cool. I can't wait to talk about it. But, again, you start off SmackDown, promo, match. Long time,
Dude,
too.
It was like a
brutal
21 minutes almost before we had our first match between Daniel Bryan and Shelton Benjamin.
I don't know why. Why do you think, I mean, we have to kind of dig into it and say, why is a promo followed up by a match the go-to script on the writer's side, and going, why is that easy?
Because it's easy. That's exactly
I feel like
why.
it wouldn't be. I feel like writing a script involves getting the show kicked off, having ideas. I feel like you can do that, but maybe just put it at a different spot in the show. Start off with the match. I feel like if it's easier just to say, tonight we're going to start off the show with music. Daniel Bryan's music comes out. We get the cheap pop. Shelton Benjamin. We have a great 15-minute match. Then we can go into a vignette, maybe with AJ Styles. Then we can go this. Then maybe the 9 o'clock hour, we can go, or maybe you started off at 5 to 9 and you kick it through the 9 o'clock hour into 9:10. You do that so that people can tune in or tune out and do what they got to do. I feel like the promo should be reserved for halfway through the show. Everybody wants to see wrestling. Nobody likes to see promos. Or at the very least, it's got to be 5-minute max. I feel like it's easier to just start off with a match. I don't think it's easy to start off with the script with a promo, and I feel like they're doing extra work. And I don't know why they keep doing it in spite of all the complaints. Nobody likes it. You can check. A lot of people, what they do is if they're not actively watching, they just use the hashtags on Twitter, and they get responses and people that are following and live tweeting through, and they go, should I peek in? What would you think if you saw that? It's just all like, oh, here's another promo. It's just like, forget it. I'm not into it.
I look. The promo is used to help build a story. It's supposed to help add and help flesh out.
But there's nobody I want with a microphone that says, I have to hear that dude talk.
Exactly.
Nobody.
It's just show the vignette.
Yeah.
If you want to do a pre-tape something or another, do a pre-tape something or another, and just cut to the action.
Exactly.
Go to tell the story in the ring. And a guy like Daniel Bryan and a guy like Shelton Benjamin, they've been around long enough. They're good enough. They can tell a story in the ring. Let them do what they have to do. And honestly, they did that. This was a good match.
Very good, right?
I thought it was solid.
Yeah,
so
Shelton can do the thing.
I don't know why. I don't know why we have to have a 21-minute promo to get you to the ring.
Shelton Benjamin, Daniel Bryan put on a good wrestling match for a SmackDown. I thought it was good.
Yes, I agree.
And then you get the King, and it was nice. It brought us back to like Superstars back in the day. You remember when we'd all sit down, watch some Garfield, then 11 o'clock would hit and be Superstars, and then you'd have that feel of the interview there on the side, and who comes out? It's AJ Styles and the King. I thought it was good. I felt like it was more nostalgic than what it delivered.
It was a cheap pop is what it was.
Yeah, in terms of what AJ Styles said, didn't really make me want to see the match anymore.
Right.
But it was, cheap pop.
It was cheap pop.
Just bringing about nostalgia.
It was cool to see the King, and that was the highlight of this entire bit. What AJ Styles said was just wallpaper background noise.
Exactly.
It was a cheap pop for the King. Did you enjoy the Samoa Joe Rusev match with The
did.
Miz as the special guest referee?
I did. Samoa Joe, Rusev, two guys right now that are just at the right spot having a match. I thought it was excellent. Well done. I was invested in it. I was like, oh, good spots. Both telling a great story. The Miz. With The Miz, anything that he's involved with, I'm down for it. And I think it's really cool in terms of what The Miz can do. And I just like having The Miz around. And Rusev, Samoa Joe, I'd like to see more of it.
Again, The three of these guys, they're going to be competing in Money in the Bank, told a story, helped move that story along. So I think this works. I thought it was very well done. Again,
having Rusev win was perfect.
It was awesome. And the way he won worked out even better because it doesn't take any steam off of Samoa Joe.
Yep.
The Miz, like you said, everything he touches turns to gold.
Nice.
He's awesome. So I thought it was great. I thought it was awesome. We wrapped up with our main event. It was a 10-woman tag match. You had the Iconics, you had Carmilla, you had Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville versus Naomi, Becky Lynch, Charlotte, Asuka, and I'm forgetting one, Lana. Did I say Lana already?
That's fine.
I don't know. I might have said Lana twice. You had all of them competing. This was decent. This was well done. This many women competing in a match, especially when you've got women who maybe aren't up to the caliber or the level of, say, a Becky Lynch or, say, an Asuka or a Charlotte, it can get kind of messy and can get kind of sloppy. All right? This match was done well. It didn't really show anybody's weak spots. It highlighted everybody's strengths. Again, told a story.
Yep.
It was decent. The one thing I did not like about the match is when it ended, when Asuka put Carmilla in the Asuka lock, tapped her out. As the heels retreated up the ramp, the faces stood around the ring surrounding Asuka, and then they all sat there and they stared so hard at the briefcase.
All right.
Do we have to stare this hard at the briefcase? Why are we staring so hard at this briefcase? I don't know why. I don't know. For like the final minute and a half, I don't think you're going to look at a briefcase that hard.
Exactly. So I think you and I are in agreement. SmackDown ties it up. They won the week. Definitely a much better job of building to Money in the Bank. Succinct. It was a better 2-hour show. I felt like SmackDown was just heads and tails better than Raw overall.
Yeah, I agree with you. Do you think that the reason that SmackDown is able to sometimes put on a much better show is because it is concise?
It's concise, and
it doesn't
you got
drag
better.
on.
You got bigger name talent. You don't got as many awful segments. Maybe just one every show, and the show is just condensed. And just people every time that they go out there, you want to see them. And they got the bigger name stars: Samoa Joe, Rusev, Miz, AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura. I feel like it was fine. It was really good. It was a good show, and they're consistently benefiting from the 2 hours. And Raw, it's also, when you look at Raw, it's just poorly written and poorly executed, and that's what's happening. So, unfortunately, that's the way it is. So, at this point in time, in terms of the verdict, it is Raw 21 and SmackDown 21. Now, we do got time. Do you want to go through the Money in the Bank predictions?
Yeah, we can do that real quick.
Okay, here we go. What's going on now is we predict the pay-per-view matches, and we have a competition. At this point in time, Jock's in the lead, and I got to kind of work hard to get it back with these predictions. Money in the Bank's going to start at 7. It's going to be one of those big 4-hour pay-per-views, co-branded. So let's kick it off. All right, let's start with the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. The field is set. Who do you think is most worthy?
I think, and this is going based off of what I've seen in the ring and kind of the build and where I think we're going with this entire story. I think Natalya is going to win this.
Oh, you think so? You think she's worthy of carrying it around?
I don't necessarily think she's worthy of carrying it around. I just think she's going to win it, and I'll fill you in later on when we start to do our predictions some more.
Okay,
but
so I think it's going to go to the Raw side, huh?
Yeah, I think she's going to win it.
Okay.
Me personally, I would love to see Becky Lynch win it.
You know what? I think that if you're thinking that her alliance with Ronda Rousey, with her having the title and then having a matchup, I don't see it going that way. I think that, you know what, when you have a young cat and she's really good, I go with Ember Moon. Somebody that's new that can carry it for a long period of time. So give me Ember Moon. I think we both agree it's Raw, but give me Ember. I think she wins it. Going to the men's side, who is most worthy of taking it down? You got a strong field on both sides. Braun Strowman, Bobby Roode, Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, Miz, Rusev, Samoa Joe, and a member of the New Day from SmackDown. Who deserves to have this Money in the Bank all year long?
Can I say right now, I think it's going to be Big E from the New Day. We don't know yet. We probably won't know until Showtime, but I think it's going to be Big E. I think this guy deserves it, and I think he deserves at some point to be world champion. I'm going to go with The Miz.
Oh, I think we agree. I think The Miz and that Money in the Bank will be amazing to have him carried around. He can cash it in at any time. You put him in a main event picture, and maybe finally you let him have a nice run. I do agree. I think The Miz, maybe The Miz, AJ Styles could have a little program that would be amazing. Or awesome. If it's, The Miz becoming a face and you have The Miz and Shinsuke, if Shinsuke does take it down. So stay tuned. All right, we're there.
Speaking of AJ and Nakamura,
who deserves to take this down to finally end this feud?
Is a last man standing match. Who do you got?
I got AJ Styles.
Yeah, that's who I'm going with, too. You taught me early on, until they take the belt off of AJ, you got to stick with AJ.
I feel like the bigger feuds going to SummerSlam involve AJ.
Yeah.
Daniel Bryan, anybody else, Samoa Joe, Miz. It just doesn't sound right with Shinsuke Nakamura. Shinsuke kind of needs to take a step back. Maybe you have an international feud with Rusev. Maybe Samoa Joe and Shinsuke can renew some fun times. I think you can have beneficial programs with Shinsuke building him back up in the next year.
I need to see a really good match from Nakamura at some point.
AJ
His last
Styles,
couple matches underwhelmed.
Keep it going, baby.
That's
Keep it
right.
going. Ronda Rousey, Nia Jax.
I've got Ronda Rousey winning this, all right? And the reason I say this, they're pushing her to the moon. They're pushing her way too fast.
Title for Ronda?
Right. They're putting her on... They're basically giving her a title match, her very first match ever. They're going to put the strap on her, and I think this leads to her and Natty having a feud. This is where you break up the best friends.
Okay, I disagree. I think that Nia walks out as the champion but doesn't get the win. I think that somehow or another, maybe Natalya does something inadvertently. I do think that Nia has a chance to walk out with the title, but maybe Ronda wins it, but by disqualification somehow or another. Give me Ronda Rousey with the win, but not by pinfall for a bonus if it happens.
So Ronda wins via DQ?
Ronda wins via DQ, and Nia Jax retains.
All right, cool.
I think it's too early. You don't build up Nia to just have the first challenge from Ronda, but you don't take the rub off of Ronda by losing. So somehow or another, Ronda does not walk away with the belt. You can ride this out a little bit more. Carmella versus Asuka. What do you think?
I think Carmella's going to win. Well, let me put it this way. I think Carmella's going to retain her belt.
Okay.
I don't necessarily think she wins. Just like in your case, I think there will be a DQ finish, and that's why she gets to keep her title.
Okay, but then you'd have Asuka winning if she gets DQ'd.
Right.
Yep.
So Asuka wins, but Carmella retains.
I'll go with that as well.
Okay.
I think so too. Roman Reigns, Jinder Mahal.
Oh, my God. Nobody wants
Well, nobody
this
cares.
match.
Just give me Roman.
Yeah.
I don't care. Yep.
Yeah.
Bludgeon Brothers versus Gallows and Anderson for the Tag Team Championships of SmackDown.
Now, this was a feud that hasn't really been highlighted a whole lot. I'm not really sure why. I like Gallows and Anderson. I would love for them to get something at some point. But I think the Bludgeon Brothers are that deal right now.
No doubt.
And I don't see you taking the belt off of those
Exactly.
guys.
I agree. Bludgeon Brothers, give me the win. Seth Rollins and Elias for the Intercontinental Championship. I got Seth all the way. It's going to be a great match. Has a chance to steal the show. Seth needs to have this belt all the way through to SummerSlam. Seth Rollins, baby.
Yeah, I got Seth as well.
Bobby Lashley and Sami Zayn, I don't really care who wins, but I think you got to go over with Bobby Lashley. I mean, you don't have him come out new and lose to Sami Zayn, so give me Bobby Lashley.
I'm with Bobby as well. I don't understand.
I might
this
not
feud.
I'm just going to fast forward through it. I mean,
This is it's bad. This is a really
horrible.
bad feud.
Daniel Bryan, Big Cass to round it out. Give me Daniel Bryan. I think it's just more of the same. Big Cass is going to be aggressive, but Daniel Bryan, in the end, he's going to be pushed through the moon. I don't see him losing in any fashion. It could be DQ. I mean, Big Cass could be cheating, break the 5 count, trying to get over, but I think Daniel Bryan wins this one.
I'm going to
Maybe not by pinfall, though.
I'm going to go the opposite direction here.
Time to give a little rub from Daniel Bryan. Okay.
I'm going to go Big Cass.
Okay.
I think this sets up for a feud down the line for the next pay-per-view, and that's where it all kind of comes together.
Okay.
That's the go home match.
Money in the Bank, Sunday, 7. Tune in. I think there's going to be a lot of good events, a lot of good storylines from this co-branded pay-per-view. I think it could be a milestone event. I think a lot of good things tend to happen. I can't wait to get Big Drew's take on it. We'll dial him up in just a few seconds here, but I am going to tune in, try and watch it on Sunday. Big pay-per-view, 4 hours, try to get our way through it, but I'm excited to get Big Drew on here and talk about his love of wrestling. Big Drew from ESPN 96.1. You can hear him in Detroit on WDFN, 11:30 a.m. Let's dial him up.
He is the best half of the afternoon sports program on ESPN 960 out in Grand Rapids, as well as here in Detroit on 1130 WDFN. He is also heard on 101.3 The Brew from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. He is Big Drew. Big Drew, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, guys? Happy to be a part of the podcast here today. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, you know what? I forgot something as well, because you're like the busiest guy in all of radio. You also host your own podcast, Court of Nerds. You're like the... When do you sleep? How do you sleep? You're like a bat. Are you Batman?
I sleep very comfortably on my endorsed mattress from Heisen's Furniture.
I love how you work spots in all the time. Look at you. You're like a master of marketing. This is great.
Oh, man.
All right, so...
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I appreciate the kind words.
You're a guy who's roughly the same age as Doc and myself. What got you into wrestling?
I'll be honest with you, man. I was a little... I always joke that I feel like I was late to the game on wrestling. I really got hooked probably in 6th grade with like the NWO stuff in WCW. A fun story is my mom hated wrestling, but she at least liked that WCW wasn't as raunchy as WWE. So I was allowed to watch that, but wasn't allowed to watch Monday Night Raw. So I could watch Nitro. She didn't like the Nitro girls that much. But it was the NWO. It was the, I even loved the Wolfpack red and black stuff because I was young. I was a full-on mark. I was eating every bit of it up. I was that white kid in the suburbs shouting, "No, viva la raza!" I had no idea what I was saying.
Dude, it's funny? So, I still do that. I do. Yeah, you got into it at just the right time.
Yeah, that was my gateway into it, and then I fell out of love with it for a little while after WCW shut down. I was like, oh, okay, well, I was never into the WWE thing, and then I had a kid, and my kid loves wrestling, and so I started to watch it again with him. And then as an adult, I found other adult friends who were like, no, dude, I'm super into wrestling. And I got to give full credit, Ben Raven, the host of That's So Braven on the Court of Nerds Network, and reporter for MLive in Detroit, has kind of helped me build a repertoire of like classic matches that you should see. And like, oh yeah, if you haven't watched this WrestleMania, or you haven't seen this Shawn Michaels match, or, if you don't know the history of Dusty Rhodes, I didn't even know what the Montreal Screwjob was until a few years back. But it's been a fun thing to get like really into and to learn the history of this sport. And it's so cool to have something like it. I'm not shilling for it. They don't pay me anything yet. It's so cool to have the WWE Network to be able to go back and watch all this old stuff and get so much more invested knowing all the people who laid the groundwork to get to where we are now.
You said your son is into the product right now. Who's he gravitating towards? Who's he marking out for?
My son right now marks out pretty hard. He's a big Finn Balor guy. He's a big Finn fan. He loves AJ. He was into Shinsuke, but the heel turn worked on him. He has turned on Shinsuke. I always thought he was just into Shinsuke because Dad was. Shinsuke is one of my favorites. But he likes AJ. He likes Finn. Seth Rollins, we had the pleasure of when it was still, everyone was on every brand. We went to a Smackdown. It was his first live show, was a Smackdown at Van Andel Arena. And we had good seats. And Seth Rollins went flying into the barricade right in front of us. And they must have been in a commercial break because he popped up and looked at my kid and goes, "You okay, kid?" And Isaac was scared. And he goes, "You okay, kid?" And Isaac goes, "Yeah." And Seth just runs away. He goes, "Dad!" Bought him a Seth Rollins shirt that night, and he's never looked back. So he likes the faces. He gravitates towards the faces, and then he likes Braun murdering people.
Hey, he's right there with us then. We love when Braun murders people. It's great. So you talked about matches and going back and kind of reviewing history of wrestling. What is your favorite match of all time?
My favorite match of all time is one that, because, again, the little bit of WWE stuff that I was able to see when I was a kid, it was always the high flyers, right? Mm-hmm. It was the Hardys. It was Edge and Christian. It was the Dudley Boys. So it's that triple threat ladder match. It is that iconic moment of, one of the Dudley Boys getting speared, while hanging above the ring. I mean, that's the stuff that gets you hooked, man. That is the stuff that you're like, I'm not going to see this anywhere else. And for the people who are like, oh, it's staged, it's fake. Yeah, but that still hurts a lot. That's still crazy to do. And, seeing the Hardys come back at that WrestleMania and seeing Jeff do that the crazy ladder spot, it was one of those, it brought back all those fond memories of going back and watching all the Hardys' old stuff before the dark times and the broken universe.
On the phone with us right now, he is Big Drew from Big Drew and Jim. You can listen to them every single day on ESPN 961 out in Grand Rapids or on 1130 WDFN here in the D. You can also hear him on 101.3 The Brew from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. He's the busiest guy in all of radio. He also hosts Court of Nerds podcast, and he's a great follow on Twitter at Big Drew Khan. Now, Drew, your favorite wrestler of all time?
Whew, that's one of those like loaded questions because Adam, you work with me every day. It's a matter of who was the best on the mic and then who's the best in-ring performer, right? Because there's a difference. There are guys who were great on the mic that weren't great in the ring, but I think you have to say still the greatest all time to rock a mic is still The Rock. I mean, the guy I think changed the way promos are done today, and half the guys out there are just trying to emulate what The Rock was doing. And I think Rocky, for any of the shortcomings people had with him, was one of the hardest workers, one of the most solid in-ring guys. I got to say, though, I mean, all-time favorite, guy whose matches I've enjoyed watching over and over and over, it's got to be Edge. I love Edge. I loved the Edge versus Matt Hardy, the super real storyline. Edge is one of those guys who I think is adequately praised, but still isn't placed high enough on the pantheon of WWE all-time greatness. But Edge is one of those guys who, when my mom would catch me sneaking in watching Monday Night Raw, Edge's entrance would be what would make her turn it off.
Was it when he was the Rated R Superstar?
That is correct, sir.
Yes, the whole thing with him and Lita in the bed in the ring. My mom wasn't really keen on that either. Yep.
Now, Drew, two of the bigger superstars currently that are very controversial, that draw huge reactions both ways, Roman Reigns and John Cena. Where do you shake out? Are you down for booing them, or are you down for cheering John Cena, Roman Reigns?
All right, so let's start with Cena, because if you listen to the afternoon show, if you listen to Big Drew and Jim, I often refer to my roommate John, and roommate John is also one of my best friends, and he loves John Cena because they share the same birthday. As for me, look, John Cena, the wrestler, you can't argue against. The man, and I think it was Brandon Stroud over at Uprocks had an article where he said you could shoot John Cena in the face with a shotgun 3 minutes into a match, and he'd wrestle another 15 with his skull exposed. As a wrestler, you can't have an issue with John Cena. As a character, I think he's stale. As a main draw, I think he's done. I think people still pop for him, but I don't think it's in the way that you really want people popping for you. And I also think that there has been some criticism of the way that he's stolen spotlight from more deserving younger guys. It's that older generation's refusal to move on. And you can levy the same criticism at Triple H, but it's just that Triple H's matches always seem to deliver so much more these days. I mean, the last great John Cena match that I can think of was the war with him and AJ Styles. That was great stuff. But how much of that was that AJ's great versus that John Cena's still great? I don't want John Cena to end up like some of the older guys who your last memory of them is like, oh, I wish they wouldn't have done that last match. Unfortunate. With Roman, I think Roman gets a bad rap. I think Roman is it's like the old line from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where his wife, Jessica Rabbit, goes, "It's not my fault I'm poorly drawn or sexually drawn," right? It's not Roman's fault his character is poorly written. When he gets to go off and do his own stuff, I think Roman is actually one of the better mic workers in the company when he's being himself or when he's with the Shield, when he's with guys that he feels comfortable with, knowing that he just has to chip in every now and then and not carry the load. As a wrestler, his offense is limited, and I still don't think that's his fault. I think Roman Reigns is a heck of an athlete, and he's a heck of a worker, and he'll go with whoever you put him in the ring with. And I loved that WrestleMania main event with Brock, Roman, and then Seth cashing in is one of my favorite WrestleMania main events because it had everything, and Roman worked hard. And I think fans are booing him because of things that are out of his control.
Drew, with that one response, I love you that much more. I already loved you before you came on the show. I now love you that much more. We are so simpatico. I tell John all the time that if you just let Roman be Roman, he's pretty damn good. When you sit there and you script him like a tool, he's the biggest canoe out there, and there's nothing you can do about it. So I'm right there with you. That being said, how do you think WWE could fix Roman to help get him over? Because they have been cramming him down our throat for some time now. And if you read any of the dirt sheets like I do, he's probably walking away from SummerSlam with the title.
The only way that they can make the crowd love that, because no one wants Roman Brock again. No, I don't think there's anyone out there saying, come on, give me Roman Brock volume 12 or whatever we're on now. I think it has to be part of a bigger storyline for Roman that either involves him doing, to me, one of two things. Roman is at his best when he's part of a team. Even his best work when he was a solo champion was when he was working against AJ with the Usos. So team him back up with the Usos, who have never been better than they are right now. Put the Shield back together. Dean's about to come back off the shelf. You had a great thing going with that Shield reunion before Roman went down for a month and Dean went down for 9. I think Roman, the way to get him back over is to pair him back up with other people that people like. Roman rolling with the Usos is part of the new Uso penitentiary. They say, yo, we needed a warden. We went and got the toughest one we could find. Boom, Roman Reigns. Or the Shield reunites at SummerSlam. Dean and Seth don't do anything but stand ringside, and Roman gets over clean. And he has to get over clean. He has to get over clean. It cannot be a dirty finish unless you are turning him full heel, which Vince isn't going to do. Now, why else do you think they've kept him with the Shield entrance music for so long? It is the only thing that people still like.
Right.
Now, this Sunday, Drew, is Money in the Bank. Are you looking forward to it? Who do you think deserves to walk away from both ladder matches with the Money in the Bank briefcase?
All right, I'm going to do something that they do for like the Oscars and the Emmys. I'll give you who I think is going to win versus who I think should win, because I think it's a different person for both matches. I'll start with the women's match. Who should win? I think it should be Ember Moon. I think that girl is phenomenal. I think she is fire. I think she is the future. I think her stuff with Asuka in NXT was unbelievable, and you've seen it with her on the main roster. Ember can work with anyone, and I think she learned that from working with Asuka, who is the best in the business at working to her opponent's strengths. She and Seth Rollins right now, I think, do that better than anyone. I mean, for the love of God, Seth gave us a good match with Mojo Rawley. Who does that? Who's that good? I think Ember should win it, but I think for story purposes and for the purpose of what I think will happen later in the night, I think Natalya ends up winning it. I think it ends up going to Natty as part of a heel turn on Ronda or as part of her progressing storyline.
I'm going to stop you right here real quick. I'm going to stop you here real quick. So just so you know, we've already gone through and we've already given our predictions. Ember Moon was John's and Natalya was mine. So, dude, we're like all in the same headspace right here.
I mean, it's hard. I love Ember. I think the one thing I will say for certain, I think it is a Raw female who wins. I don't know who it is. I won't be shocked if they give it to Sasha because they love making Sasha the first of things because of everything she's done for the women's division. But she would be the first clean women's Money in the Bank winner, I guess. So, but it's going to be a Raw woman, which leads me to the men's thing because I think it is a guy from SmackDown who wins. Because how do you cash in on a champion who's never there?
It's true.
Like, where's the drama? Where's the intrigue? Where's the build?
Makes perfect sense.
So, yeah, that's my theory. Who should win it? Whichever member of the New Day goes in should win it. It's about time those guys get pushed up to the top of the card. You don't have to break them up, by the way. You don't. You've seen them do this with their singles matches. Having Kofi and Big E on the side for Xavier, who's having a great year, by the way, has been incredible. But I honestly believe it should be Kofi Kingston who goes in for the New Day, and it should be Kofi who wins it after, 6 failed attempts? You've got to let Kofi win this. I mean, the guy is, I think, the most underappreciated worker on the roster right now. And Kofi is a guy who gets the audience moving, and there's still so much pop for the New Day. You've got to use this while they've got it. Who I think will win? I think it's going to be Samoa Joe. I think the management loves Samoa Joe, and they should. One of my favorite lines that you see on wrestling Twitter is, Samoa Joe is just like your favorite wrestler, but better at everything. That's Samoa Joe right now. He is working on an unheard of level. I don't think they give it back to The Miz because you're going to have The Miz and Daniel Bryan heat regardless, and I feel like that's what's next for them building up to SummerSlam. And Rusev is over on his own, and he doesn't really need the briefcase to go over more. I think it should be the New Day, but I think it will be Samoa Joe.
Now, we've had the privilege of talking to Big Drew. Always enjoy the conversation, especially talking professional wrestling. But I would be remiss without asking, what was your path to get on the air in Detroit? And what's it like for you daily hosting a daily sports show out there in Grand Rapids? What's it been like for you being part of the scene talking sports?
Man, the Detroit thing, when they told us about it, that was a year, 2 years ago. Jim, how long have we been on in Detroit? Jim's in the room. 1 year. Thank you, Jim. He's much smarter than me. He's the organizational one on the show, if you guys haven't been able to tell. I'm the scatterbrain. But no, being on in Detroit has been really cool, man. I'm West Michigan born and raised. I've been in Michigan my whole life. And so I've been a Detroit sports fan my whole life. I grew up on, I talked about it a little bit on the show this week. I grew up on Herman Moore and Johnny Morton and running pass patterns in the backyard, pretending to be Charlie Batch of all things. One of my best friends still has a starter jacket signed by Charlie Batch. So Detroit sports are in my blood. And when we were told, hey, we're going to put you guys on in Detroit and on 1130 WDFN, I mean, a station with such a storied history, that launched so many great broadcasting careers. It was kind of surreal at first, to be able to look at it and say that, having an article written about us in the Detroit Free Press was just bonkers. So that whole experience has been nuts, and getting to talk sports every day and having someone pay me for it is about the craziest thing I ever could have anticipated. When I was in high school, I tried out for a thing that a local TV station had called "So You Want to Be a Broadcaster," and the rumor that I was told by one of the station employees was I was a finalist until they found out I was in high school, not college. And I had the bug ever since, man. For a while, I thought I wanted to work at ESPN corporate, and then they told me I'd have to cut my beard, and I was like, I'll stay in radio where no one has to look at my face.
Where can people find you on Twitter?
I'm on Twitter at BigDrewCon. That's Big Drew Con, and it's for Court of Nerds. We also love it if you followed us at Court_of_nerds, and check out thecourtofnerds.com if you guys like professional wrestling. We will actually be part of Podcast Row for StarCast, the lead up to All In Labor Day weekend in Chicago. So if you guys are looking for coverage of that, we'll be your place for it.
Are you going to you're going to Monday Night Raw? Was it next week, right? This upcoming Monday.
I will be at Monday Night Raw on Monday night, and if you guys know what my face looks like, look for my face.
I'll be looking for
a buddy of mine is at Takeover and Money in the Bank, and he brought a giant cardboard cutout of my head.
That's awesome.
Yes! I will definitely look for it. We'll screenshot it. That was awesome.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. Drew, I'm looking forward to today's show. If you guys want to hear more of Big Drew, you can tune in on your iHeart Radio app, 101.3 The Brew from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. And then this guy's pulling double duty because he's the busiest guy in radio on ESPN 961 out there in Grand Rapids. Or you can listen here in Detroit on 1130 WDFN. Drew, thank you, my friend. I appreciate you coming on. This was awesome.
Hey, appreciate the time, you guys. Best of luck, and let's catch up again soon, all right?
Sounds good, brother.
That was Big Drew. Delivered, man. Good interview. Loves wrestling. That's what I like. I think we should do more of that. Get these guys, because there is a strong contingent of people in Michigan who love professional wrestling. Definitely headed by one of the top podcasts out there, the Dennis Farrell podcast. Holy cow, the DocCast and the Wrestling Perspective podcast. Big Drew is going to be there on Podcast Row for All In StarCast. Nice.
How awesome is that?
You got to get on that, Joe. You got to tell him, hey, call me up. I want to talk about it, So
I didn't know he was going to that.
That's cool.
I just found out he broke news. Broke news here.
I know we talked earlier on Doc and Jock regarding video and stuff like that. Probably the next stuff for us will be get some headsets and start doing getting our asses out of the studio and doing more. But
doing more live stuff.
I think that's good. It's something to build up to. So stuff like that would be cool. But that's an expense. So I don't want to be doing that. We got to get some more money. So make more money is what we got to do. All right, quickly hit us with Jock's weekly pro wrestling news and notes. Let's go.
So a lot of stuff with MMA this week. A lot of stuff with New Japan this week. Not so much with NXT or any type of developmental or other indies besides, and I don't even think New Japan's considered an indie at this point, but CM Punk, he was pretty much embarrassed Saturday night at their UFC fight against Mike Jackson. At that time, after the match, Corey Graves thought it was good to sit there and take some pot shots at CM Punk. After the match, he went as far as to say he would fight Punk. Now, these two have a storied history. They were really good friends. CM Punk was the first man to hold Graves' kid when his kid was born. So that's how close they were at one time. CM Punk's a weird dude, and after everything happened with WWE, he kind of went on his own way and kind of left everybody in the past and to stay in the past. It's just kind of weird the way he did it. So Brock Lesnar plans. It's been floated out there that Roman Reigns will beat Lesnar at SummerSlam. However, there is also talks that Seth Rollins or Samoa Joe or maybe even Finn Balor could be the next Universal Champion. It's believed that Lesnar will then go back to UFC to see what kind of impact he can make there. Sticking with UFC, Ronda Rousey will be inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. She'll be the first woman ever. Now, some interesting news about Ronda Rousey. Ric Flair came out this week in an interview and stated that he believes Ronda Rousey only has signed a year-long contract. Now, this differs from what we originally heard when she was on ESPN, and she said she signed a multi-year contract. So some things kind of have to be worked out there. We've got to figure out who's telling the truth. I'm probably going to go with Ronda Rousey knowing how long her contract is instead of Ric Flair being semi-coherent and thinking that he thinks what it is. You remember about 2-3 months ago when Jeff Hardy hit a guardrail and wrecked his caddy?
He was drunk.
He was drunk. Well, no surprise. He pled guilty to DWI. Also, Hulk Hogan is expected to return to the WWE very soon. He stated in an interview, that same one with Ric Flair, that talks are moving very quickly. Now, you remember Hulk Hogan hasn't been seen of or heard of with anything with WWE since he made those racial remarks after sleeping with his buddy's wife. Totally weird situation. Absolutely nuts. It's also being reported that John Cena will replace Sylvester Stallone in an action movie that will co-star Jackie Chan. This movie does not have a working title yet. That's just the report that's going on. Another thing being reported is that James Ellsworth may be coming back to WWE. I don't think it'll be for Money in the Bank. You can also check out James Ellsworth on the Duh podcast with our buddy Dennis Farrell.
Ooh, maybe we can talk to Dennis, get some inside scoop.
We could.
Yeah.
We've got to do some research there. I just found this out the other day, so I haven't had a chance to really follow up on anything. But this is what's being floated out there, that there was some imaging and some different items that has James Ellsworth face on it, and it's got WWE attached all over it. So interesting. All right, so now let's head over to Japan. And by Japan, I mean New Japan. We've got a lot that has come out of this past Saturday morning's Dominion show. Kenny Omega finally defeated Okada for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. I haven't had a chance to see the match. I've heard that it's incredible, though. It was a 2 out of 3 falls match. I heard it was absolutely awesome. Got to check it out. If you listened last week, I predicted that Kenny Omega would finally get the W and get the championship, and he has. Some other groundbreaking news from last Saturday's Dominion show. Chris Jericho, yes, that Chris Jericho, defeated Naito for the IWGP Intercontinental Championship.
Hey-o.
This is something I don't think any of us expected. I think we all thought this was going to be a one-off deal. He would go there, he'd end up putting Naito over. Naito would continue to walk out with the championship. But no, Chris Jericho looks to have signed some type of a contract with New Japan where he will wrestle for them. He's going to be their Intercontinental Champion for now. Really interesting. On a recent interview he did with Between the Ropes, he goes on to explain why he will not perform, however, for New Japan in the United States. So he won't be at the G1 at the Cow Palace, and he won't be at All In. He was asked to do both of those, and he said no. And this is for a couple different reasons. One is Vince McMahon. Chris Jericho has a really, really good relationship with Vince. He wouldn't do New Japan unless Vince gave him the approval, all right? He does not ever want to burn his bridge with WWE, and he runs everything by Vince McMahon before he does anything. Number 2, he doesn't want to lessen his value. He said unless you're paying him more than 6 figures, he's not doing a show for you. So he's getting a fat check from New Japan right now. When he goes back to WWE, he'll get another fat check. But he said he's not doing any random indies, any random one-offs, unless you're talking astronomical dollars. So Michael Elden ended up defeating Goto and Takahashi in a triple threat match for the IWGP Never Openweight title. The Young Bucks defeated Evil and Sonata for their 11th reign as IWGP Heavyweight Tag Champions. And Hiromu Takahashi dethrones Will Ospreay for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. So Dominion was filled with awesome matches. Going through and kind of reading through everything, it seemed like no match got less than 3.5 stars. So if you get a chance to check it out, I know it'll be airing on Access TV. Take a look at it. It was awesome. It was incredible. My favorite wrestler won the Intercontinental Championship, as well as Kenny Omega taking home finally the grandest prize in all of New Japan. So awesome show.
Very nice. Anything else?
That's all I got, man.
Very good, enjoyable podcast. Always love the preview. Thanks to Big Drew. I always enjoy recording the Doc and Jock Wrestling podcast. Very good stuff. Looking forward to, Money in the Bank. Can't wait to review it with you next week.
Absolutely, dude. Should be a good show.
All right, let's get out of here. You can follow all the shows on the network, DetroitSportsPodcast.com. If you like a show, you heard anything, you want to react to anything that Big Drew said, anything that Adam and I said, follow us on Twitter at Detroit Podcast. You can follow Adam at AdamRSTROZ. He is the hugest mark probably in the world of Detroit sports wrestling, and definitely he'll mark out with you New Japan, Ring of Honor, WWE. Shoot him a message. He will reply. No doubt about it. Let's get out of here.
I'm a total mark.